All right, we welcome you back to Good Night LA over a stolen vehicle pursuit. This is a live look from Skyfox. This is a pursuit that's over right now on the 5 in Newhall. You see this vehicle, it's a big rig. So what we can tell you at this point, this started in Santa Clarita on the 5 freeway. This truck was apparently stolen while the driver was pumping gas in Santa Clarita. That is quite the story. So according to our Extreme Nav technology, we're on the 5 southbound in Sun Valley, speeds in the mid-60s at this point. Obviously light traffic given that it is 11:15
That's a
at night on
container,
this Wednesday
container
night.
truck.
We have retired police specialist Tim Lynn joining me on the line now. The details of this one, and given the fact that this is a big rig, Tim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's not much they can do about this, but just go ahead and follow it. A big rig like this, there's no way they can do any type of pit maneuver. They can do spike strips, put the wheels and tires on the big rigs. Sometimes will defeat the spike strip spikes that come out and try to lower the pressure in the tires.
Because those spikes are, only so long, and the tires are thick, because those are commercial tires.
And figure out what this driver is going to do. But they have in the past had success with the spike strips to where they've got the one vehicle, but it kept going because it's such a powerful vehicle. They can drive along even though it doesn't have rubber on the wheels. But right now CHP is just going to have to sit back and try to figure out a game plan for this and how to contain this vehicle as it continues south on the 5 freeway.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the saving grace, the silver lining, if there is any, given the fact that it is light traffic, because it is 11:17 at night. So thank God there aren't more unsuspecting drivers out there. You see the night sun being shown from the chopper above. CHP, the lead agency. This is the southbound 5 in Sun Valley, speed mid-60s. That's been the case since we joined this pursuit. So, Tim, basically, if you're CHP, you're strategizing how to bring this to an end.
You just got to follow it until he stops, runs out of gas, or crashes.
To figure out, hey, if we can get these spike strips out, we will.
Because you can't pit him.
You
can't make him stop that way.
Choke points along these freeways, like 5 freeway, when it gets down to East LA interchange, it drops down to 2 lanes. So that makes it more easy for the lanes to be covered with spike strips in a situation like this. And they're going to have to use multiple strips to be able to disable this vehicle. And then, we have to deal with what's in that container in the back. They're probably talking with the owner to figure out what is in there, what type of product. And then also, does that owner have weapons in his cab? Because that is a sleeper cab. You can see that extended area behind the driver's window. That's actually a bed and a living quarters for the driver. So they're going to try to figure out what he has in there. So because their vision is very limited into that cab to where when it does come to a stop, how are they going to approach it and what they're going to do with it? But right now, they're going to have to, work with the watch commander and then use their information that they have on this vehicle and then find that choke point to where they can put out spike strips.
At least there's really no traffic on the freeway right here. Okay, what's he doing? He's slowing down. What's he doing?
Or maybe the driver's noticing spike strips. It's always hard to see. But the night sun is giving us a better view. Yeah, lanes wide open here. It looks like that container says CMACGM. I'm not exactly sure.
If you know who that is or what that is, put that in the comments. CMACGM is a container.
Truck driver was apparently just getting gas in Santa Clarita and then gets his big rig stolen. I mean, you've been around the block a few years now, former police officer Tim Lynn. Have you heard of such a thing?
It doesn't matter what kind of vehicle it is. If somebody's going to steal your vehicle while you're distracted putting fuel in, they're going to take it no matter what it is. We've had fire trucks stolen. We had a pursuit of a fire truck that was
I've been around when the police cars were stolen. They've stolen police cars.
So the type of vehicle doesn't matter. If a person wants to steal it or has an idea that they can jump in and take off, they will. And this may be a targeted theft because there may be something very valuable in that container that's going down to the port or that was coming up from the port. It's just a matter of what is the mindset of the person.
Okay, look at it. He's rocking it.
Yeah,
he's rocking it. What's he doing?
Weaving around and see the cab wobbling there.
it makes me think that this is just pure for a joyride. Like I'm gonna steal this and just see what I can make of it. You know, I mean, with the wobbling inside, and it also makes me think of if you're gonna steal something.
When
like
I was
this,
a police officer, I got in a pursuit of a stolen car, and they crashed, and then got out and ran, and I started chasing them, and I jumped over a fence, chasing after them, and then I was kind of waiting for a perimeter to set up, and I heard a noise back by the police car, so I peeked up over the fence, and somebody was in my car taking out my duty bag with all my equipment, and it was running down the street with it. So people will steal anything.
Coming on the 5 right here, it's a pretty wide area. It looks like he might be moving over for the exit here at Burbank, but at Alameda, but you just don't know what his plans are, what the reasoning is. And like I said, right now they're talking with that driver of that truck to figure out what's in it, what could possibly have happened. Was there any dialogue between the suspect and the victim while the truck was being stolen? And it's just, you know, all that information is put together by CHP, and then they're going to formulate a plan to be able to take this thing, just to get it stopped.
Okay, like he's at 70 miles an hour now. He's doing 70.
Past experience, and have you seen these things from a police car and from a police helicopter and also from news helicopter? You know, there's only one way to stop a big rig like this is just try to take out the tires as best you can with those spike strips. And like I said, there's choke points along the 5 freeway here, and once he gets into those areas, maybe the CHP will have those areas carpeted to be able to take it out.
All the other drivers there, I mean, those vehicles are just dwarfed by this big rig. Now speeds in the 70s, so all along it's been pretty much in the 60s, picking it up into the 70s at one point anyway. So this is the southbound 5. If you know anyone who happens to be on the road at this hour, please let them know, because this is really a dangerous situation. It doesn't matter that traffic is light. This person behind the wheel obviously driving erratically, recklessly, no care to seemingly any of these other innocent drivers out there. If you are just joining our coverage of this stolen big rig pursuit, we can tell you that this started in Santa Clarita. We're getting word this started at a gas station when the big rig driver was trying to fill up, and it was stolen then. Going over the center divider here. Are we taking an exit, Tim? It looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like
this is
you're
this
coming
exchange
down.
to the 134.
Yeah, 134 East is probably going to pick up, because the westbound you have to get off at Verdugo. So this is going to be the East 134, which will take it down through Eagle Rock area. Down
okay, watch out, van. Watch out, cars.
210. So
you better get out the way. And see, there's really no police cars right behind him, because you got the helicopter over top watching, and you know you can lay back.
Point that I was hoping for down by the East LA interchange. Just one away, but CHP will adjust to that. That's one thing you have to be in police work, is flexible and go with what the suspect does and flex to his actions, and then take advantage of the area knowledge that you have to be able to get out ahead of this vehicle.
All right, so this is the first time that we've seen the big rig off the 5, now on the 134 East in the Glendale area. As I was saying, as we zoom in here, it's hard to see. You can't really get a look at all of the suspect there behind the wheel. This was essentially carjacked from a big rig driver in Santa Clarita, jumped on the 5 freeway. We picked this up in Newhall, and now we're here in the Glendale area, eastbound 134. CHP is the lead agency. We have former police officer Tim Lynn on the line with us. He's really helping to paint a picture of how this may come to an end eventually. A pit maneuver is obviously out of the question given the size of the big rig, and we've learned from former officer Tim Lynn that the only way to bring this to an end is establishing spike strips out there on the highway to damage those tires to bring this to an end. So in terms of strategizing, Tim, I mean, this is such an event for CHP to try to figure out, how do we do this? Even though there isn't a lot of traffic, it's still hard
somebody's
to do.
merging on the freeway, getting in front of him.
Because you have to deal with the other traffic that's on the freeway by laying out those spike strips. And so you try to get to an area, like I was explaining, that is more of a contained area, 1 or 2 lanes if you can get it down to that. But unfortunately, like I said, the 134 here, when it transitions into the 210, it's going to stay pretty wide all the way along. But there's the way you deploy spike strips, there's ways you can pull it in front of the vehicle and the advantage they'll have there is this big rig is not as maneuverable as a car. We've seen in the past where they pulled the spike strips out in front of cars. The cars have braked, made lane changes, and drove around the spike strips. Now, this person won't be able to do that as nimbly of this big rig as he would in a car. So that'll be at the CHP's advantage. But, you know, that's pretty much right now a bag of tricks. That's all they have on this. Just a matter of also talking to the driver to say how much gas or how much diesel did you get in, and how much diesel do you know, was in this vehicle when it was taken. So maybe they know it's low on fuel and they're just going to try to run it out. But, you know, he's eastbound now, and so 210 takes you a very long ways unless he takes one of the southbound freeways. It's going to be a long run out to the east.
What is your word to drivers? I know there aren't many on the roads tonight, but nonetheless, this can happen at any given moment when you're out in Southern California. If you do happen to see a pursuit coming up behind you, how should you, how do you react?
And now we have probably the Baldwin Park office coming up with their units, and they will trade off the units as it goes through each with office area of responsibility. The CHP do not call their substations departments; they're called offices. So their area of operation.
So he's 70 miles an hour, 70 miles, 68 miles an hour.
Come into each one, they will hand it off. And the one thing about it is they have one central frequency that they go to when they're in a pursuit like this that everybody can hear. Even the local agencies can monitor that frequency to where they know where this pursuit is. So you see right there, that was a local agency sitting on the overpass waiting to see what happens. So it's through their area. And now as we continue on, we're going to pick up the different jurisdictions, and they're going to be listening to see, is he going to get off in our town? And if the CHP helicopter starts running low on fuel, which it can after a long time, we don't know.
There's a CHP officer right there on his right. He's passing by him.
They'll call ahead, like now we're coming into Ontario or into San Bernardino, and they'll call San Bernardino County Sheriff's, hey, can you come up, take the pursuit for us, and then, you know, follow it while we drop down and get gas and come back up. And there's a handoff like that among the area units to keep coverage. But as far as on the ground, you're only going to see CHP. And if they widen out, you're probably going to see a switch off where you'll see 3 cars sitting on the side of the road.
Okay, look at him. He's passing by him.
Zipping by. Yeah, he's just going to zip by it and get ahead and probably just try to see what's up ahead, or maybe they're getting ready to set something up ahead of it. But what they do is you'll see 3 units on the side of the road. Those 3
okay, there's a CHP now. They finally zoomed out. You can see CHP behind him. CHP behind him.
And get off the freeway, and then the new units will take over, and that will continue on as it moves through the state, because they don't want Bakersfield CHP all the way down here in Azusa. I mean, because they don't know what the area is. They don't know the side streets once they get off. So as we make our turn through here on the 210, we're going to be coming up on the 605 here pretty quick. So it's just a matter of see if he goes south 605 or continues on the 210.
Now, we're just also getting some information from meteorologist Jonathan Novak, who obviously checks traffic conditions as well for us. And he notes that soon on the 210, there could be some work underway, construction, a work zone, and that could mean that the right lanes are closed ahead. So that could mean more of a bottleneck. So we'll see if that, in fact, does come to fruition. But so far, I mean, by and large, this driver, the suspect, has had all the lanes of any of the highways that they've been on tonight. So again, this was on the 5 when we picked it up about 30 minutes ago, then 134, then now onto the 210 westbound in the Azusa area, passing, let's see, Citrus Avenue and Covina. We've seen speeds as high as 75, close to 80. It's been average in the 60s so far. A little bit of sort of that joyride mentality behind the wheel there, going back and forth with the wheel so that the cab was really wobbly. And then we've also seen the behavior of when there is an unsuspecting driver, that this suspect seems to go right at them to scare them almost. We've seen that behavior as well. You know, thank goodness traffic is light. We saw that CHP cruiser, though.
So a couple of things that you do when you're in a pursuit, you have to determine if you're going to continue the pursuit is what is the subject wanted for. So the want of the subject, that's one of the things you consider. Then you consider speed, traffic conditions, and weather conditions. So as you see on this freeway, it's light traffic, if no traffic. And he's wanted for a stolen car, so that's a felony. So they're allowing the pursuit to continue. Plus, there's a helicopter overhead so that the CHP officers can back away, so they can give him space so that they don't push him too hard, because he's doing 75 in that big rig. That's fast. So let's listen on some more.
That switch off may have already happened with CHP, a helicopter to go get fuel and come back in. But right now, I just see the only law enforcement agency over the pursuit right now is County to come over and take over for them, because they don't want to get too far into San Bernardino County where they're kind of out of their element. Have that local knowledge.
I thought I had no ads on.
So you try to put the best on the pursuit. So
on my YouTube, I pay premium. I thought I had no ads. So sorry about that, folks.
Somebody there knows where they're at. But and like I said, getting ahead. You talked about the construction area coming up. Where it's okay to a point, other than there's cones, there's vehicles on the road, things of that sort. But if you notice when you drive home at night as you're coming up to a Caltrans work site, there's always a CHP officer sitting there, watching and keeping track. Now I'm sure they're well aware this pursuit is coming their way, and they're probably in the process of trying to get people off the freeway.
Okay, he slowed down now to 54.
The workers out of harm's way.
54.
And should this guy come plowing through and starts hitting cones and take out a Caltrans truck or take out some construction vehicles, actually that'd be a good thing, because he'd disable himself and bring this thing to an end. And like I said, with that CHP who's stationed there,
look at that, no traffic on the freeway.
Is well aware of this thing coming.
No traffic on the freeway.
One frequency they do use that everybody listens to.
Now he's picking up speed again. Picking up speed again.
The ability of listening to that, and there's no areas where you have to switch from the different frequencies for the different offices of CHP. They go to that one central frequency that keeps everything well coordinated. So that's how they manage these pursuits, as they go through multiple agencies. This thing can go all the way to the border, and they're always going to have 3 CHP units on it. So he's not going to get away from the police cars behind him. He's not going to get away from the air units that are overhead, because, as I said, they're going to be working handoffs with the helicopters as well to keep eyes on for the officers on the ground. Right now it's going so slow, the officers are just driving normal freeway speeds, but he's gone from the center divider now all the way over to the right side. And so it's just trying to figure out what he's going to do here. But he should be coming up on that 605 here any moment, because as we work our way through here, there's only one way to go on the 605 when you get there, and that's south.
Yeah, and it looks like speeds are decreasing just a wee bit, So we see the flashing lights from the CHP. You mentioned that it's LA County Sheriff's chopper up ahead providing the night sun. So yes, this is multi-agency, and we'll see if in fact that road construction is up here.
So like in Sacramento, we have a couple different helicopters that follow pursuits. You have CHP, you have the Sheriff's Department, and you have the Police Department. Each has a helicopter. So lots of times what will happen is you'll have one agency involved overhead calling the pursuit. And sometimes they'll run out of gas, and then another agency will get involved. And then they will trade off. And if it goes outside the jurisdiction, you may call in another agency from another jurisdiction to come in and to call the pursuit. And when I'm saying call the pursuit is they give out the broadcast on the radio. It'd be like, okay, we're southbound Interstate 80, number 2 lane, 85 miles an hour. That's what I mean calling out the pursuit. So the officers don't have to call it out because it's stressful. You're doing 100 miles an hour and you got to talk in a calm voice to give out your speed, direction of travel, and all that good stuff.
That driver who was filling the diesel tanks up, how many people jumped in, how many people accosted you at the gas station. And then again, if you notice big rigs, they'll leave the engine running along just while they're sitting there. Mm-hmm. And if that situation where the driver was outside on the right side of the cab filling up that right saddle tank, standing there, and then all of a sudden the car drives away, he may not have a clue who's in the car. Mm-hmm. Or in the big rig, because a guy could have just snuck in and took off. I mean, they do that at gas stations all the time, where people will go in, leave their keys in ignition, and while you're on the other side,
we're seeing this again.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, just weaving it.
Look at this fool.
For no reason.
Yep, just to scare them. I mean, that's all you can think, right?
Well, yeah, and it's just to be. Just to do things abnormal. I mean, there's no reason for that. If he's trying to get away with this load, there's no reason to try to, force other vehicles off. So, let's see, as he goes by the car, he doesn't really go after the cars too much, except for that one. But the big rigs, he seems to want to get up next to them, then taunt them and move over and try to force them to leave that lane. Nothing really aggressive, but just enough. A big rig driver, like I said, these things are not that maneuverable, and a trained driver is going to do whatever he can to get himself out of harm's way in a hurry if somebody is encroaching on them to where they can. But you can see here, there's a unit sitting at the bottom down there.
A couple more units sitting on the freeway off-ramp right there.
Everybody's keeping an ear on this, and they know it's coming through their area, and they're just sitting, waiting to see if it comes off in their town, or if it continues on in the freeway. But like I said, he's just using all lanes of the freeway, just kind of meandering.
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Doing anything really. Also, that driver has access to the back of that rig, as I mentioned earlier.
Let's see. He slowed down.
Do you have any weapons in your sleeping compartment in the back?
What's he doing now?
Fighting it really hard here, trying to keep it going.
Yep.
And so you see, once you get to a little shot of that left rear, you see it. Rubber flapping on it, so they got that tire as well.
They got him with a spike strip.
He's having drive problems. He's having directional problems, and like I said, he's either going to end up into the center divider wall, pinned against it, or over the side if he goes to the right. But looks like he's going to try and push this as far as it'll go until it just gives up the ghost. But he's grinding those front rims down.
Yeah, and it looks like, or is that just the residuals of those mid tires, if they're compromised at all as well? They're taking the brunt of this. So, by the way, this is 210 westbound exit. There is the Baseline Road in Ontario. Speeds now 15 miles per hour. You saw how close the black and whites are behind, just sort of waiting this out along with the rest of us. Spike strips, let's give kudos to CHP. We believe it was CHP. That's what we understand it to be, that threw out those spike strips on the 210 westbound. So hats off to CHP officers who successfully did that and compromised, completely wiped out those two front tires. Now we're riding on nothing but rims. I'm reminded I have covered a big rig pursuit on the 5 that lasted a very long time. It was a similar situation, Tim, where the spike strips resulted in the two front wheels gone, and eventually it caught fire. And the whole front cab has caught fire. It did catch fire, and that's what brought that pursuit to the end. So hopefully we don't see flames erupt. I've seen it before. As I'm looking at the clock, it's now midnight. You're watching an extended version of Good Night LA. Weeknights at 11 o'clock, usually a 30-minute newscast. We're in our 4th week, and this is now into a 60-minute Goodnight LA because we've been following this stolen big rig pursuit out of
got no rubber on them tires.
It was picked up in Santa Clarita. We're now in Ontario, where we have former police officer Tim Lynn on the line as we watch this hopefully come to an end. at any given moment. You're getting flashes, Tim, of the suspect behind the wheel, and I can't imagine what it's like to drive a big rig like this, but then to drive one without front tires.
I imagine it's quite difficult. I would think so, because he has very little directional control with the vehicle, and probably not a lot of
He's
drive,
going
because
35,
one
40. He's
tire
picking
on
up
the,
speed.
Drive wheels there, flapping rubber as it goes along. And I remember that pursuit you were speaking about, Marla, is that, it drags the frame on the ground after a while, once he wears those front rims down, and the friction builds up that heat, and then you have all those, parts of the engine there. You have a lot of oil, you have diesel fuel, and it's just a matter of time before it builds up enough heat to where it starts igniting, the residual oils that are on the bottom of that rig. And so that's what happened on that other one you were talking about. That went for, I forgot how many hours through the area. It was quite a long pursuit, but this one here is kind of taking on the same profile as he picks
55 miles an hour with no front tires.
54 miles an hour without
Where's the
steerage.
sparks? Is those sparks I
This
start
could
to
go
see?
sideways in a big hurry if he has to make any maneuver, or if that truck gets out of straight line and starts swerving on him, and he tries to overcorrect. So, we just don't know. But he's also been just grinding those front rims down, and the more they grind, the less control he has with this vehicle. And like you said, it's difficult enough to drive these big rigs with everything working properly. I can't imagine the difficulty.
Look at them sparks.
And I use the word he because we don't know if it's a man or a woman driving.
Right.
But the driver to be able to control this thing with very little steerage, and then also kind of flopping tires in the back to where it's
boom.
These pieces and parts just
look at it.
flying off.
Yeah,
It's starting to grind even more and more.
Yeah, I mean, given what we were just talking about, that former pursuit that we covered with this big rig, a similar situation, and I mentioned that the whole cab caught fire. This is exactly that scenario. I mean, you're seeing the flames, or the spikes, I should say, the sparks, after the spike strips did their job. The wheels, the tires completely gone. Speeds now into the 50s. It's almost like this person has a death wish at this point, Tim.
Yeah, I don't think he's
Tap that like button. Tap that like button. Subscribe to my channel. Click the bell notification if you like this kind of content.
Or hit somebody. It's just a matter of time before he just will not be able to steer this, and that frame will be on the ground. And if he stays on the gas pedal, it's going to end very badly for him. Like I said, if it goes over to the right side, there's a good chance he'll roll it. But if he goes in a center divider, unless he keeps his big speeds up, he may go through the center divider if he's at enough of an angle to it that he doesn't glance off. And then you see right here, as the unit was coming up on the freeway, he made kind of a move to the right, like he was going after the vehicle, after the CHP vehicle that was coming up. But I can't imagine him having too much steerage left with this vehicle. As the sparks continue to grow under there, that's that friction I was talking about that's going to build up. And eventually it's going to get so hot, and there's going to be so much grinding going on that, something's going to ignite underneath there. And that's exactly what happened to that other big rig that we spoke about.
Yeah, so on that wide shot, we just saw those 3 CHP officers. We're seeing more debris fly off. At the risk of, asking a stupid question or not, posing it correctly because I don't know my big rigs, but just given, Tim, just how compromised the rig is.
Is diesel fuel easy to ignite?
And we're seeing.
Put that in the comments. Is diesel fuel easy to ignite?
At what point will this just give? Is that imminent?
Well, you see here, we're putting out the sparks, and it looks like it's still coming from the rims. So the rims are still holding the frame off the ground. And like I said, at a point when those rims will grind down, and eventually
looks like it's getting wild. It's getting.
And now you're seeing more underneath. I
think you're seeing flames.
It's catching fire now.
Exactly. Those flames.
Yep, it's doing exactly what we talked about, and now it's going to catch fire. And he's going to have to make a decision here. How much further am I going to drive this with it in flames? And eventually it'll come up to the floorboard.
Yep, this is exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, Yep, exactly. So this is what's going to bring it to an end. It's going to be on fire. And one thing about it being on fire, that'll encourage him to get out of the truck. So it's not going to be a long standoff.
No, I mean, and since you do recall that other big rig pursuit where it ended literally with the whole cab igniting into flames, I mean, you saw that suspect at that point jump out as fast as they possibly could. So we could very well see this again. And look at all of those sparks, Tim. Look at all of those. And now you have to wonder about the CHP officers who are following behind.
Yeah, they're probably dodging pieces and parts coming off at them now. As Skyfox swings around to the right side, you're seeing
look at that.
Now that's just metal being ground on the concrete, being pushed by that truck, and it's just going to work its way up and burn the side of the vehicle, and then start setting off. Now he's going to have to get away from the sound wall here, but it looks like we're off the freeway, maybe here at Haven. And so we'll see what happens once he gets over here. But he's up on the side of the freeway, and now you're going to have to worry about.
And now you think about the trees. Okay, now we've stopped. Yeah. We've stopped, and now those flames could very well light up the hillside.
There he goes.
You see the suspect running, making a run for it up the hill, Tim, doing his darndest to get to the top.
Look at that. Look at the big rig is on fire.
Considering. But you know that those CHP officers, they are there too. And there is a big retaining wall, as we're seeing, certainly a male suspect here.
Let's see, can he jump
that?
that?
Hoodie, a jacket on. Now it's, how are you going to get over? How are you going to scale this wall?
It's going to be tough unless there's an access. They do have accesses along the way. There are little doors that go through to make access for fire department, but you're going to have some very...
Oh, he just ran around it. Okay.
Fencing on to,
there he is. Yep.
There he goes.
And running, but you're going to have some very fit CHP officers coming over the freeway wall there and
it's
taking
a foot pursuit.
The Ontario... actually, the San Bernardino County Sheriffs are overhead now, and they're probably communicating with the Ontario PD to where the suspect is going. He's going up to a house.
Going into, is this a single unit home? Yeah, it looks like it is, with a backyard. Yeah. This is Hermosa Avenue, by the way. And so we're seeing, you know, obviously the suspect's trying to figure out, where can I go? Where can I hide? I hope
officers are right behind you, buddy.
Are locked. We're getting more of, looks like a young man, hat backward, hooded sweatshirt, gray.
They're going to get you.
Interior here.
Where's the dog?
Walking,
where's the dog?
Trying to maybe play it cool.
There's a CHP officer going to come up on him. You see his flashlight going there, and now he's going to pick up speed. Yeah, the problem here is now you're going to hear, people are going to hear helicopters, they're going to hear sirens, and the one thing you do not want to do as a citizen is open your front door to see what's going on, because you might have this guy right at your front door just trying to find a place to go. My worry at this point is he's checking doorknobs. My worry now would be, should somebody be coming home now in their car and be pulling into this thing, because this guy will take the car in a heartbeat. But there's a CHP officer right behind him here and now has eyes on him. The problem now is when he gets out of the car, then there may be a communications problem with the portable radio he's carrying and the Ontario, or the San Bernardino County Sheriffs are overhead. So, he's going to get caught.
It looks like the taser. You could see that the CHP officer just released the taser, perhaps.
Did they get him?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the yellow taser come out.
Yep, yellow taser came out. Now we're under the eaves here. So this is the Ontario area. You see now another CHP officer, perhaps. They tased him. We're getting word, another officer. Now it looks like they have that suspect on the ground.
Yep.
Obviously, we're not getting a great view of that, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it looks like, officers there. We saw that yellow taser come out, and then moments later, that suspect on the ground. Now Skyfox penning back over, so you get really full perspective here of that big
look at
rig
that! Look at that!
On
That's
fire,
crazy.
That cab. And we had talked about this, having covered a similar pursuit where it ended in this very same fashion. A spike strip had damaged the vehicle.
Look, no tires. The whole thing is on fire now. Where's the fire department?
Gone. And then eventually, given that the suspect was not giving up, riding on rims, the cab caught fire. And this is the result. This is the 210 in the Ontario area. And now, thankfully, it doesn't look like that hillside has caught fire. So,
okay, folks. That's the replay of that stolen big rig that caught on fire. They caught the guy, but he went from Bakersfield to LA, south on I-5, down around on all the freeways. They used spike strips to disable the tires, and then he got out after it caught fire. He got out and ran, and then they was able to take him into custody after he got a little zip, zip, zip. So make sure you subscribe to my channel if you like police activity, because if I was in LA, I would have been at the scene so you could get a live shot of the fire and, up-to-date information. So have a good evening.